on paper doesn't necessarily mean anything in the NFL, but this is the type of team that they should be. The Texans are overachieving. So there's a little less pressure on them, and just the mindset is like, we're not supposed to be here at this level anyway, talking about playoffs this soon, which I think is a really big deal. They are 0-7 against the spread in their past 7 games as a favorite, and 0-4 against the spread this season. So it is something to think about, at least when you're talking about Houston. I'm with you, though. I do like the Broncos in this game. I like the Broncos to cover. I think the Broncos win outright,
Yeah, I think it's a good spot. Indoors, they're feeling the momentum. Texans obviously are riding high, but I feel like 3's a little tough. I think that's just not, I think that's too big of a number.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, maybe it comes down to a field goal in this game, but I would ride with the Broncos, who are playing even better football. So I can't wait to see what college football looks like moving forward. It's going to be better. It's going to be more entertaining during the regular season. You're going to have way more interesting games week 3, week 4, week 5, but you do have to then sacrifice, essentially, a major conference to make that happen.
I mean, it was like Hunger Games of football conferences. We just died. They just took us out.
May the odds be forever in your favor, Trista.
Exactly, and they just took the teams. They picked the bones of the conference and took them with them. It's some pillaging going on. It's some colonialism. We're gonna plant our flag. We're gonna take you with us. You're my wife now, Oregon. You're mine. We're gonna have babies with you.
It's wild, too, because if you really look at, like, that landscape of what college football is looking like with the transfer portal and stuff, like, teams are going to look completely different every year, which is so crazy to really think about in all the different aspects of that.
And it's hard to keep up when all these players are
like
moving.
Technically, the transfer portal doesn't technically open until Monday morning, and I'm sure you guys have followed it, like Pete Thamel, people like that. They've already posted probably almost 100 people at least have already gotten the transfer portal, and I'm just only talking big names.
Well, it's like when the NBA has their legal tampering period, and like teams already have agreements with players long before they're officially able to have agreements. It's just free agency in college football. That's all that it is. Bill Bender jumps on with us, college football writer for the Sporting News, and let's start with the games that we're looking at tomorrow. I want to start with the SEC championship game with you because, Bill, we're looking at Alabama, and this is a team that early on in the season we said, oh, man, they're bad. Oh, Jalen Miller, they bench him, and then it's just like we're going through this up and down roller coaster with Alabama, yet here we are, once again, it's Alabama, Georgia, SEC championship game. When you look at this Alabama team, do you see a team that can not only win this game, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say you probably do see an Alabama team that could at least win this game, but do you also see a team that then can get into the college football playoff if they do win?
Yeah, they're going to need a little help, obviously, and there's a couple pieces. That's crazy to think that Alabama winning still might need some help. That I don't think I've ever said that in the last 15 years. But what a mega matchup it really is. Jalen Milroe's been brilliant, made the season-saving play last week. And they are an underdog. And there's certain programs, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, to some extent, that when you give them that underdog card, Clemson proved that earlier this year a couple times, that they can use that very effectively. So to say that Alabama can't win the game, I mean, they absolutely can. Georgia has some key injuries in that game. It's going to be fun. I was telling people on shows all week that when that game starts, I don't know about you guys, but like 10 minutes in, I'm always texting buddies. I was like, man, this game's awesome. Look at all these guys out here that are going to be playing on Sunday. Look how fast it is. It's always a fun game to watch.
What do you see this game looking like? Total has creeped up from 53.5 to 55.5. Alabama's been an over machine. Both of these defenses are usually their bread and butter, but it's kind of been a little bit of a down year defensively for both teams. If you like Alabama, do you like the over?
If Alabama wins, I would say it hits the under, right? You feel like it'd be a 28-24 type game, 27-24. Maybe they slow Georgia down, force a couple Carson Beck turnovers. But they have, they've scored, and like you said, been an over machine. So, I think the difference with their defense has been the secondary has improved. And, yes, they had a bad game, not a great game last week against Auburn, but this is still a really capable defense around Dallas Turner. They can get after it. And in this game, I feel like both coaches would like to play it first 1 to 31 wins, maybe. But I know both of those coaches want it to be lower than that.
But how concerned should Michigan be with J.J. McCarthy and just kind of what we've seen from him on the field the last few weeks? A little banged up, just doesn't look like the same quarterback that we had earlier in the season.
See, I thought he looked fine last week.
Yeah, okay.
I'll give you the Penn State, Maryland. Ohio State's really good defense, and he's going to see a really good defense tomorrow. His accuracy was good last week. They haven't really, but to your point, they haven't had this explosive passing game. Not a lot of 20-yard pass plays, those kind of things. So, they'll have to hit a couple of those early. If anything with McCarthy, it's not tomorrow. I would wonder that for when they play these teams that's on my TV set right now. If they got in a game with Washington or Oregon and you got to get up and down a little bit, that's where I would be concerned if they're not hitting those big pass plays, if that makes sense.
I feel like a lot of Texas fans have been bitching and moaning all on social media all this week because Oregon is 5th in the nation and they're a one-loss team, and you have Texas who beat Alabama, right? Who's now in the championship, and they're using that Texas Tech common opponent as their reason. To me, it feels like Oregon is head and shoulders better than Texas. What about you?
I mean, I would take Oregon head-to-head for sure. I mean, I watched the Alamo Bowl last year when Washington beat Texas, and I know they're different teams, but I think Oregon would win that game, and I would probably pick them to win that game. Now, Texas has played well and dealt with adversity. They didn't have Quinn Ewers for a couple weeks. I thought they might get knocked off then. They lost Jonathan Brooks for the season. I thought the running game might drop off, but they've found ways to win those one-score games. They do have that Alabama victory in their back pocket. But right now, I mean, and I'm watching the game like you guys are too, up until this point, Oregon has been kind of the best combination of offense and defense among the contenders other than Georgia.
Yeah, we talk so much about Oregon's offense and Washington's offense, but in the end, yeah, Oregon defensively is a whole other. I mean, they're head and shoulders above certainly what Washington brings to the table. Talking to Bill Bender, BetMGM tonight. Let's look at the Heisman race here, which right now, if you look at it, I mean, look, Bo Nix is the heavy favorite. Jaden Daniels slightly behind him at about plus 150 or so. Then it's Michael Penix Jr. next up at 16-1. And obviously, we've got to see how tonight shapes out and all that. But with the ups and downs and kind of the roller coaster we've had in terms of who the favorite is to win the Heisman, it's really felt like a week by week thing, kind of similar to where the NFL MVP race has been. Is this a situation where, I guess, is it Bo Nix kind of has this thing wrapped up unless they just get completely whooped? Or, is there still a chance for somebody like Jaden Daniels, even with 3 losses this season, to have an opportunity to win it just because of the season that he's had? Well, I mean, these two quarterbacks have the stage tonight, and Jaden Daniels will be for that, and you guys know, a lot of people vote on this thing before tonight or Sunday, which I don't do mine till Monday morning. I sit down every Monday. That's my kind of tradition. Then I make sure I spell the names right and it looks right, and then I go from there. And I'm just so paranoid about misspelling the name. But I think these two one of them could win it tonight. And I think I'm crazy, but if Jalen Milroe beats Georgia, it's a pretty compelling case. Wow. I mean, Georgia, a pretty compelling emotional case. I don't know if it's enough to get him a win, but I think it could be enough to get him to New York.